So if you're coming from Vegas, parenting is something that in After Effects should hopefully seem a lot more straightforward to how you do it in Vegas. And so I'll explain that now. So if we want to parent something in After Effects, let's first drag in another layer so we can see how to do this. And actually, we'll just remove the Old Spice footage for now. So we'll duplicate this layer a few times as well, drag them out, and we'll make our center one the top layer. So let's say we wanted to parent these two layers to our middle layer here. So all we're going to do is select our two layers we want to parent by control clicking on the layers. We'll take this pick whip icon over here and we'll just drag that to our topmost layer. And so now when we move our topmost layer here, we'll go to the drop down for transform, just take position. You can see both the layers move right along with it. And if I change where this layer is in the layer stack, let's just say I move to the bottom, those layers will still be parented with it. So in Vegas, you have to keep the track directly next to it in order to parent it, like parent it under. And in After Effects, you just have to make sure you assign it to the parent you want, and that's it. And you can even do parents of parents as well. So let's just say we want the right one here parented to the left one, and then the left one parented to the center one. So now if we move the center one, that'll move both of them. If we move the left one, that'll just move the right one, and the right one will just move freely on its own. And this will apply for all transformation properties, so rotation, obviously, scale, any of these. And another way you can select the parent layer is by clicking on this drop down here, where you can select your layer you want to parent to in the composition, or you can select it the none if you want to unparent it. And so one interesting thing to note about parenting layers is that it's going to be parenting all these transform values here, except opacity. So this is our parent layer right here. If I turn down the opacity of that layer, the other layers aren't going to respond to that, but they'll respond to everything else: rotation, scale, position, anchor point, but not opacity. So this brings me to another topic, that in After Effects, we don't only have the ability to just parent a layer, we can parent any property of that layer individually. So let's say we want to have this layer's opacity linked to this main layer's opacity that we originally parented. So we'll just click on the drop down here for opacity, and we'll take the pick whip for that property and drag it onto opacity. And you'll see right away it's now linked to the opacity of that layer. And we can do the same exact thing for the opacity of this layer as well. And you aren't limited to just opacity for this. You can use this with any property you want, and even with effects, which we'll get into eventually. If your After Effects version doesn't have the pick whip here for the property, what you might have to do instead is alt-click on the property, on the stopwatch icon, and then you'll get a pick whip option here, which you can then drag to opacity, and then just click out of that, and then that will link it up for you. So that's about it for parenting, a pretty easy topic to cover. And we also learned about how we can link individual properties of layers without parenting the layer itself. In the next tutorial, we'll finally be talking about pre-composing, the VEG nesting equivalent for After Effects, and how it's better in essentially every way.